All right, awesome. So let's go ahead and hop right in. So some of the things I'm going to go over quickly in this Zoom is some tips for new traders entering swipe trades, okay? So some of the common questions that I get is how to determine if it's too late to enter a trade. I've also had people ask me, what does the time period of the chart tell you? So whether you're looking at an H4 chart or a 1-minute chart, 5-minute chart, 15, 30-minute, I'm gonna go over that. What happens after you put in a trade? Some of you have sent me screenshots and you're like, what do I do with this after I put in the trade? Or why is it not moving? Is it supposed to be doing this? Should I close it out? I've also had people ask me questions about entering a buy market. I know that we get a lot of buy market instant execution trades, and some have asked me, well, where do I put in the entry price? So let's go over some of those things. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. And the first thing that I want to talk about is what should you do when you get a swipe trade? So let me go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to share with you an example of the note that we received. So can you go ahead and type in the chat if you can see my screen and tell me if you can hear me? Just type yes. Someone type yes if you can hear me, if you can see my screen. All right, awesome. So we get a swipe trade and we open it up and then we start to read the notes. The first thing you need to do when you get that swipe trade, you want to open it up. You're going to see the pair of the trade. So this is AUDJPY. The time frame is the hour of the candles, and I'm going to show you an example chart and why this is so important, okay? Next, you'll see if it's a buy by market or a sell by market. Now, what you also will see, if it's not a buy by market, you'll see something like buy limit or you'll see a sell limit. A buy by market means that you are getting into the trade by instant execution. So you're getting in the trade right away. I'm going to tell you the pros of that, and I'm also going to tell you some of the drawbacks of that. This is the entry price. So some people have said to me, well, if it's a buy by market execution, why are they giving me an entry price? So I'm going to tell you why, okay? And then they're going to give you the stop loss here, the take profit, and if you always scroll to the very bottom of the trade, it's going to give you notes. Now, one important thing, sometimes you will get a swipe trade notification and it's just an update for a trade. Some people say, well, why do they send updates as new notifications? Well, sometimes they just want to give you an update to tell you what's going on with that trade. If we need to modify it or make any changes, if we need to delete it, which we don't like to hear, but they want to tell you, give you an update. So let's say, for example, we got this trade. It's a buy by market, and this is our entry price, 81.100. I'm going to show you the first thing that I do when I get a trade. So let me scroll. Can you guys see the chart that's on my screen right now? So can someone type yes or no? You should be able to see a chart. Yes. Does someone type yes? Okay, I think you guys are saying yes. If you do not see a bar chart on my screen right now, type no. All right, thanks, Rachel. So awesome. So this is AUDJPY, okay? So I use an iPhone. So the first thing that I do when I look at the trade, I usually find the pair. So right now we're looking at AUDJPY. You can see that right here. I open the time frame. Now this time frame says H4, okay? What that means is that these candles right here are telling you what has happened in the market in the last 4 hours of the trade, okay? So why is that important? When a trader expands a chart and just looks at, for example, a 15 or 20-minute candles or less, they are doing themselves a disservice because they can't see the bigger picture of the trade. So it helps you to be able to, when you look at what's going on prior to an entry price that they're giving you, you're able to see more of the support and resistance, and you're able to see, well, they're telling me to get in at 81.100, which is right around here, but what if this trade is trying to retrace and go down and hit a possible area where it was, let's say, 1 week ago, right? So what that would do is you would lose pips. So notice, I know some of you notice that sometimes you've gotten into a swipe trade and you've gotten in too early. Now, let's say let me show you something that happened with this trade today, because this is a trade that hit the stop loss. So we were given an entry price of 81.100. But let's say if you got in by instant execution right when you got the trade, you would have got in right around up here. It would have put you in somewhere up here. It doesn't put you in at the entry price that they gave you. So when you get in by market execution gets you into the trade right away. However, sometimes you lose pips. You might lose about 4 pips, 4 to 5 pips getting in by instant execution. So it gets you into the trade right away, but you still lose some pips. If you were to enter an entry price, so if I look at this trade and I say, okay, this is the first thing I do. If it's an H4 trade, this is telling me what the trade did in 4-hour candles. But I want to know, what is this trade doing? What did this trade do yesterday? What did it do last week? What did it do last month? I want to know, what did it do a year ago? Because I want to see, is this trade trying to retrace a point where it might have hit just a couple days ago? Because that's going to tell me that it's possibly going to keep going down. And that's exactly what this trade did. Let me pull up another chart. This is a better picture. So this is a 30-minute time frame chart. Some people ask me, well, you know, what is the value of the different time frames? Like, why do I need to look at the different time frames? And that's exactly why, like I was saying, a 1-hour chart or a 4-hour chart is going to show you a lot more data. If you're looking at a 5-minute chart or a 15-minute chart, it really doesn't show you the emotion of the trade and what's going on. Scalpers, of course, we look at the shorter time frame charts, but even if you're a scalper, you want to look at the hour chart, the 4-hour chart, to see what that trade has been doing. So look what happened to this trade today. This was the entry price that they gave us. So if you got into this trade, now let me go back. Instead of getting in by instant execution, one of the other options you can do is when you, okay, say you look at the trade and then you say, okay, I'm going to go and get in the trade. So let me pull up something really quickly. Let me pause this, and I'm going to share something different with you really quickly. Hold on while I pull it up. Let me go to my desktop and open up something. 1 second. All right, buy market. Here we go. Okay, let me share my screen. Share screen. All right, here we go. So this is what it looks like when you go and put in the market execution. So some of you have asked, well, Kenya, you know, I went to try to put in the trade. They gave me an entry price, but I don't have anywhere to put it in. So this is on an iPhone, but it's very similar with the Android. What you have to do is you have to click on this market execution. And when you click on this market execution, it's going to show you this. It'll give you options. So instead of, if you enter a buy market execution, another way to get into the trade is by entering through buy limit. And a buy limit allows you to set an entry price. So this is where you would put the entry price that they give you. What you're doing is you're getting in the market at a certain point instead of by instant execution. That way you won't lose pips. So in this case, if you would have entered by buy limit, and if you would have watched the market and you would have saw that, you know what, I'm not going to get into this trade at this time. I'm going to wait because they told me to get in at 81.100. But I'm going to go check the history of this trade and see what it's been doing and see if it tries to possibly retrace. And you might be thinking, well, I don't know when to get in the trade if I wait. What I like to do is I like to find the lowest point that it actually went. And I like to put my horizontal lines on here. So this is where I mark up my chart. I usually put a horizontal line. And how I do this with an iPhone, if you look right here at the top, there's a little circle and a triangle. I click on that. I get my horizontal line. All you do is click on it. On the Android, it's a little bit different, but just look for similar concepts of what I'm telling you and you'll find it. You get your horizontal line, you click on your phone, anywhere on the phone, and you can move this line up and down. So what I immediately do is I put a horizontal line right here on the entry price, and then I put another line. I go back and I look at the history of the trade. If you kind of move your window in and out with your fingertips, all you have to do is kind of move it to the side or just move it with your fingertips. You'll see it'll let you move it in and out. And I can do another demonstration on that another day. But basically, I put another line where the lowest point was maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and that allows me to see, okay, this trade might possibly move down a little bit more. And notice that's exactly what it did today. This trade went all the way down to 80.497 before it started bouncing right back up. I'm still following this trade right now. So I'm just going to tell you personally what I do, okay? With this particular trade, a lot of people hit the stop loss. My trade didn't hit the stop loss. I took the stop loss off because I looked at the history and saw this trade just needed a little bit more room to go down and hit. It was going to retrace and it was going to go back up. But of course, to protect the masses in our company, I'm sure that, you know, they have to give us a stop loss that's going to protect us, because you never know how far a trade will go. So what I did was I removed the stop loss, but I didn't get in the trade when they told me to. So because I got in a lot further down here, I was in positive when a lot of people were in negative, okay? So hopefully this is making sense to you guys. Let me check the chat really quick and see if you guys have any questions. But type yes or no if this is making sense, if it's confusing. Tell me if anything is confusing for you. How do people look at a year ago? So what you do is you have to look at the higher time frame. So what I do is I look at the daily. So you can look at the H4, you can look at, I usually start with H4, and then I also look at the weekly time frame, and I also look at the daily time frame. And those will allow you to see, if you just scroll to the left, you keep scrolling. So you put your, what you do is you find the lowest point at where the market was, okay? So you might have to scroll out to do that. You put a horizontal line. So for example, this was where I drew the line today, because I watched this trade and I said, okay, like for example, as it kept going down, this line right here, I moved it. So it was here, then I moved it down when it went here, then I moved it down when it went here. So this creates a new level of support and resistance, because if this was continue to come down, it would break the resistance, okay? So this told me that, okay, this trade is moving all up in here. Like this is the new support area right here. So it just needed to retrace. It was what I did was I scrolled back on the time frame and I was able to see that there was a point, this point right here where the market had hit. I think it was probably like weeks ago. And then before that time, I think it hit that area like maybe 2 months ago. So you never know what it's going to do. But if you look at the history, you'll see possibly that's where you're going to have some pullback. So I like to wait and get in the trade a little bit lower than what they call it on swipe trades. So look here. Imagine if you had waited, instead of getting in at 81.100, look at where you could have got in at. Let's say if you even got in right here, 80.631, where the blue candle started to form. You see how many pips you would have gained instead of getting in up here? This is why you want to look at the history. So if you just scroll back to the left, once you put your horizontal line right here at the bottom, if you scroll to the left, you're going to scroll and scroll and scroll. And if the red line disappears, once the red line reappears again, that tells you when the market was at that price the very last time. So hopefully that makes sense. What you are pointing at is confusing. Your mouse is on black. Okay, so are you looking at do you still see the AUD-JPY candle chart? Yes, okay, awesome. So sorry about that. Okay, so my mouse right now is on this horizontal line. So this is the line of where, when I followed this chart, I took a demonstration of this chart to share it with you guys. Your mouse is on black. So, okay, so you see the chart. Do you see my cursor right here? Circle in the candle? Okay, awesome. So, okay, just pay attention to the chart that I'm talking about. So basically what I'm trying to point out to you guys, your mouse is off a bit. Okay, I'm sorry. So let's not even use the mouse right now. But basically what I'm trying to point out to you guys is that when you get a trade, when you get a swipe trade, it's always best to look at the history of the trade, and you don't have to be so in a rush to jump in the trade. Mark your chart up, put a horizontal line. When they give you an entry price, mark that on here. Now let me show you another thing too. Another question that you guys asked is, how do I know if it's too late to enter the trade? So let me show you, let me give you an example. So say that they called the trade at 81.100. Let's say where this top red line is right here. So this is where they called the trade. So if I open up this trade, and it doesn't matter whether you're looking at a 30-minute chart or an H4 chart, you're gonna look at the most recent candle, okay? So if they're telling me to get into a buy, But if I see that the candle is still forming below, like it's dropping, then that lets me know that that trade has not started to move in the direction that we want it to go. The mouse isn't on the chart. I'm sorry, not sure what's happening. Okay, so sorry about that. I'll have to fix that. But basically, looking at the chart, you want to look at the most recent candle. So if you are in if they're telling you to get into a buy and you see the very top line. So the very top line, the red line on my chart, it says 81.099. Let's say if that was your entry price. If they told you your entry price was 81.099, you're going to look at your chart. And if there's a candle in the last, let's say if you're looking at a 30-minute chart, then your last candle would be above 81.099. So if you have a candle that forms after that, then you would know that it's already started moving in the direction that we want it to go. But if you see, for example, how these candles started to shift down, like say if you found this, you looked at this trade an hour later and you see that, okay, the candles are still below 81.099, but they want me to get into a buy. That would tell you that you still have time and this is actually working in your favor. So that's why you want to look at where the chart is, what it's doing, look at the history of it. And then if this is not going towards a buy direction, you still have time to get in. But if this was a buy and they told you to get in at 81.099 and you see that the candles are already forming, then you would know that it's too late to get into that trade. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, you can say no. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's how you can determine if it's too late to enter into a trade. All right, so another question that someone asked, stop share real quick. Another question that someone asked is, after you put in a trade, then what? When is the trade final? So for new people, when you put in a trade, sometimes you're gonna see a trade pending. You're gonna see a trade where nothing is moving, you don't see red numbers moving, you don't see blue numbers moving. That means that if you see numbers that are in black off to the right of your screen and it's just moving, like the numbers are just kind of calculating but not doing anything, that means that your trade has not hit the entry point yet. We're waiting for that trade to hit the entry point. And then once it starts moving, when you see red numbers, that means that the trade is now active, but you're in negative. We want to see blue numbers, of course. We want to be in the blue, which is a winning trade. But when you're in the longer time frame trades, what some people don't know, they want to know, okay, well, why is this taking forever to hit? We get a lot of H1 trades and we get a lot of H4 trades. When I first started, we weren't getting a lot of those. Why they changed it up, I don't know, but I have an idea. And maybe because most people, what I notice when they get the trade, especially if you work a full-time job, some people say, well, if I didn't get the trade on time, I wasn't able to get in. With an H4 trade, you notice that it takes sometimes longer to hit the entry price. So it still gives us a lot of time to get in, but also it lets the trader see more data of what the market is doing. And it shows us it gives us more confirmation of how that trade is going to react, which is a good thing for us, especially so many of us trading at the same time. All right, so let me read the comment, maybe very confusing. Yeah, so if this is confusing to you, I mean, I'll continue to help as much as I can and train on this. I just wanted to kind of share with you guys what I do when I first get a trade, and I definitely want to make sure that you know where to put in, an entry price if you get a buy market or if you get a sell by market. So just know that when they say enter by market execution, you can pull up that trade and you can enter by market execution or sell by market. It just gets you into the trade right away. However, I don't like to do that because what I realize is that with most swipe trades, it's going to retrace. So you'll notice that if you get in by market execution, you might be in the blue for a little bit, but most of the time, majority of the time, that trade is going to retrace and it's going to go the opposite direction for a little while, especially if it's an H4 trade. H4 trades are going to take much longer to hit the entry price. So what I've learned is that it's very wise to trade on a lower lot size when you're doing long-term trades, because when they send you multiple trades, If you're trading on too much of a higher lot size, you won't have room probably in your account to enter multiple trades at one time. So me, I normally trade a little bit higher lot size. Sometimes with swipe trades, I'll trade on a lower lot size, but it just depends. If I trade on a dollar lot size, I only enter one trade at a time. And I'm okay with, like yesterday I made $160 on one trade because I had one trade in at $1. I don't enter all the take profits and all that stuff. So, everyone's gonna trade differently. You have to find what works for you. Also, too, I noticed that I like more, of course, we want more wins than losses. So for me, I don't always let a trade go to the take profit, because a trade can turn around and do anything that it wants at any time. Nothing is guaranteed. We do have to be okay with losses. But what I find is that, hey, if I'm in a trade for even 50 cents a pip, and if I see that I've made $40, I'm okay. I'm probably comfortable with getting out. So especially with swipe trades, I hit that, I'll take that and I'll close out the trade. So that's another thing you can do. You don't have to ride a trade to the take profit. You can get out early if you want to. But, studying charts and analysis has really helped me to be able to, I feel, take advantage of swipe trades. It's allowed me to capitalize more on swipe trades and gain more pips, which is what we all want. So even if you're new, don't overwhelm yourself. You don't have to say, well, I don't know how to chart and, do all this stuff. I've spent time like really delving into this stuff and looking up stuff, attending sessions on IMLTV, looking at charting and analysis. You have to be a student of this, and you have to jump in and learn. And the more you learn, you're going to do better and better and better. And you're going to find yourself really learning how to get over some of the things you might find challenging. So that's been my experience. If it's working for me, I just wanted to show you how it can work for you too. If I can give another demonstration, I will. Okay, let me read the comments real quick. How do we find the chart for a pair? Oh, someone is answering. How do we find the chart for a pair when we aren't in the trade on our phones? I have only been able to see the chart once. I'm actually in the trade. Okay, so yes, Tia answered that. So hopefully you'll understand, but you just find quotes on your phone. And if you find quotes on your phone, you hold it down and you click on chart, and then you can find the trade that way. You click quotes and then you find the pair on the list. And if you hold down on the pair, you click chart, and then it'll show you the chart for that pair. All right, so what other questions do you guys have? What other questions do you guys have? Other than that, I think I explained what the candles tell you on the different time frames. So for example, if you're looking at a 1 minute chart, the 1 minute chart tells you what the candles were doing in 1 minute. The 1 minute chart is really irrelevant to me. I start on the higher time frames and I work my way back down. So I'll start on, even if I'm scalping, I usually look at the daily chart or weekly chart. I look at the 4-hour chart, the 1-hour chart, because that tells me what that trade has been doing, either the last 4 hours for each candle or the last 30 minutes for each candle. And I like to see that because it gives you a bigger picture. If you're looking at only the 5-minute chart or the 15-minute chart, it really doesn't give you enough, I would say, exaggeration of what that trade is doing. So that's just a tip there. Do you guys have any other questions? Let me see. Can you show the growth chart for trading plan if you don't have it up this way? I don't have it up right now. Let me just see if you guys have any other questions. So you look at all of those charts per trade. Yes, I do, pretty much. I always start on the higher time frame and then I work my way down. So I start, out, and then, because if you start out, the more you start out, you can see more. If you start with the 15-minute chart, for example, you can't see as much. But if you look out, you're able to see like, oh, this trade actually was, it was a lot lower yesterday than it is today. So I see it might be possibly trying to retrace there. So I'm going to wait and get into that trade. So I would suggest that with swipe trades. Hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. I wish I could share my screen, but sometimes I have a delay. But yes, to answer your question, I look at all of the different time frames to get a good visual picture of what that trade might possibly do. Because if they call a price, and if I can get in, let's say if they call a buy, but I know that that trade is going to retrace, I can wait. I can wait and get in a lot lower. One of the images that I showed you, you would have gained 22 pips if you would have waited. So imagine, you know, a lot of us, we probably get into those trades too soon, and then we're looking at it like, man, when is this trade going to go in the blue? Right? So if you just wait and look at what it's doing, you can get in a lot lower. And your entry is always important. You want to get in if you're aiming for a buy, you want to get in at the lowest point possible. If you're aiming for a sell, you want to get in at the highest point possible. So that is pretty much it. That's what I wanted to go over with you guys and just kind of explain that, what to do when you get a trade. What is the trade? When is the trade final? A lot of you also have asked this too. What you've sent screenshots before, and I noticed that some of you asked, well, what do I do with this trade? You don't need to do anything with the trade. You don't even have to look at it. When you put in a swipe trade, that's what I love about trading, is that you can set it and forget it. You don't want to get in the habit of constantly looking at your phone. Set your take profit. If you don't do a stop loss, then you can frequently check on it. I mean, you want to use a stop loss and use proper risk management, but for me, I don't always use a stop loss. I'm usually in and out of the market, or I kind of know what I want to do. If I know that a trade needs to retrace and hit a point, I will wait and enter my stop loss after I get in the trade. So just kind of set it and forget it. If you're in a trade, in a swipe trade, it's going to automatically take you out of the trade no matter what. It's going to take you out of the trade when it hits your stop loss, or it's going to take you out of the trade when it hits your entry point. All right? So other than that, I think I've answered all of your questions. Hopefully this was very helpful. So we basically covered how to determine if it's too late to get into a trade, what's the time period of the chart telling you, so the different time frames of the candles, and also when you get in by buy market versus buy limit. So just know, if you get a sell by market, you don't always have to enter by sell by market. If they give you an entry price and it says sell by market, that means that you can get in by sell limit. So instead of getting in at market execution will always get you in right away, and you'll be negative. You'll be in the trade negative. That doesn't really bother me, honestly, but I stopped getting in by market execution because I see that if I just watch where the trade is, if it keeps going down, I can set a sell limit, for example, or a buy limit, and I can put the entry price that I want to get in at, so that way I can gain more pips. And then when it hits my entry price, more than likely, I'm going to be in profit when it starts to move. All right, so I think that I have answered all the questions that I wanted to go over. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording, and I'll take some more of your questions.